Why is one of the most important tools in modern technology named after a rodent? Think about it too. Sit at your desk, click away at your computer, and never question why that little device is called a mouse. But the story behind the name isn't just quirky, it's tied to the early days of computing, when a handful of researchers were trying to make massive machines easier for people to use. What started as a joke in a lab became one of the most recognized names in tech history. And the reason it stuck says a lot about the playful side of innovation. So let's dive into the curious story of how the mouse got its name. Section 1. Life before the mouse. Back in the early 1960s, computers looked nothing like the sleek laptops or desktops we know today. They were enormous room-sized machines that only a small group of specialists could operate. Everyday people had no access to them, and even scientists had to go through clunky systems like punch cards or typed commands just to perform the simplest tasks. If you wanted the computer to do something, you had to type exact instructions in a language that only programmers understood. There was no pointing, no clicking, and definitely no scrolling. In short, computers were powerful, but they were far from user-friendly. This gap between what computers could do and what people could actually use was the problem researchers at the Stanford Research Institute were trying to solve. And at the heart of their mission was Douglas Engelbart, a visionary who believed computers should be more than oversized calculators. He saw them as tools that could actually help people think, learn, and work together. But before his dream could become real, Engelbart needed a way for humans to talk to machines more naturally. That search for a simple, intuitive interface set the stage for one of the quirkiest inventions in tech history. Section 2. The first prototype. In 1964, Douglas Engelbart and his colleague Bill English built something that, at first glance, looked almost laughably simple. It was just a small block of wood, about the size of your hand, with two metal wheels hidden underneath. As the block moved across a flat surface, the wheels tracked horizontal and vertical motion, translating that movement onto a screen. It didn't look like much, but this boxy wooden gadget was revolutionary. For the first time, a person could control what was happening on a computer display by moving their hand in real space. You didn't need to memorize lines of code or shuffle around punch cards, you could just move, point, and interact. At the time, Engelbart called it the XY position indicator, which sounded as stiff and technical as the computers it was meant to simplify. But even with the boring name, it was clear this device could change everything about how humans interacted with machines. Still, nobody could have guessed that this little wooden box with its cord dangling out of the back would go on to become one of the most recognizable tools in tech history. Section 3. Why it was called a mouse. The official name XY position indicator was forgettable, and even Engelbart knew it. But inside the lab, the team had already started using a different nickname. When you looked at the little wooden box with a cord trailing out the back, it resembled something familiar, a mouse with a tail. The comparison was so obvious that the name stuck almost instantly. At first, the term mouse was just an inside joke among the researchers. They never imagined it would catch on outside of the lab. Engelbart himself admitted later that he thought the name was silly and temporary. He expected that once the device gained traction, a more serious, technical term would replace it. But when the world first saw the device in action during Engelbart's famous 1968 mother of all demos, the word mouse was already being used. The audience embraced it, and soon the nickname spread faster than anyone expected. Instead of being replaced, the quirky name became permanent. Ironically, what Engelbart considered a playful placeholder ended up being one of the smartest branding accidents in tech history. Section 4. From prototype to popularity. For a few years, the mouse remained more of a research project than a household tool. Engelbart had shown the world its potential, but computers themselves were still rare and expensive. It wasn't until the 1970s and 1980s that the mouse began its rise toward mainstream use. The turning point came when Xerox's Palo Alto Research Center, known as PARC, started experimenting with graphical user interfaces. These new systems used icons, windows, and menus, things that demanded a pointing device far more intuitive than a keyboard alone. The mouse was the perfect fit. Later, companies like Apple and Microsoft recognized how powerful this combination could be. Apple's Lisa computer in 1983, and then the Macintosh in 1984, brought the mouse directly into people's homes and offices. Suddenly, pointing and clicking wasn't just a lab experiment, it was the future of computing. What started as a clunky wooden block became a symbol of modern technology, and the odd little nickname it carried helped make it feel less intimidating. Instead of being just another cold piece of hardware, the mouse was approachable, friendly, and ready to change the way people used computers forever. Section 5. How the mouse evolved over time. The mouse you use today looks nothing like Engelbart's wooden block, but every version built on the same core idea: simple, natural control. After the original wheel-based design, engineers introduced the trackball, which allowed smoother, more precise movement. That soon gave way to the rubber ball mouse of the 1980s and 1990s, the one most people remember using with their first home computers. The ball rolled against the desk, and sensors inside translated the motion to the screen. It worked, but it came with a catch. Dust and dirt constantly gummed up the mechanism, and cleaning became a routine chore. Still, the ball mouse was revolutionary for its time and dominated the market for decades. Eventually, optical technology replaced the ball. With lasers and sensors doing the tracking, mice became faster, cleaner, and far more reliable. This evolution continued with wireless models, scroll wheels, ergonomic shapes, and even gaming mice packed with extra buttons and insane precision. Yet, through all these changes, one thing never shifted: the name. Whether it was wooden, ball-based, optical, or wireless, the device remained the mouse. That single quirky nickname followed it through every leap in design and helped it remain instantly recognizable, no matter how advanced it became. Section 6. Why the name stuck. It's almost funny to think that one of the most important devices in computing carries such a casual nickname. But the reason the name mouse stuck has everything to do with psychology and perception. Imagine if Engelbart's original technical label XY position indicator had become the standard. It sounds cold, complicated, and intimidating. Would everyday people have embraced it as quickly? Probably not. But calling it a mouse gave the device a friendly, familiar character. It transformed advanced technology into something simple, approachable, and even a little playful. The name also spread quickly because it was short, catchy, and easy to remember. Once companies like Apple and Microsoft adopted it, the term became baked into the culture of computing. There was no going back. Even Engelbart admitted later that he thought the name was silly, but by then, it was too late. The mouse had become the mouse, and nobody questioned it anymore. In fact, the whimsical nickname might have been one of the key reasons the device gained traction so fast. It made new technology feel less alien and more human. Conclusion. So, why do we call it a mouse? Because decades ago, a group of researchers looked at a small wooden block with a cord hanging off the back and thought it resembled a rodent. What started as a light-hearted nickname became one of the most enduring terms in tech history. The story of the mouse is more than just a tale about hardware. It's a reminder that innovation doesn't always come from cold, calculated engineering. It often comes from creativity, timing, and a touch of humor. The name made the technology approachable, and the device itself made computers accessible to the world. Even as technology races forward, the mouse remains a symbol of how simple ideas can transform the way we live and work. And every time you click, drag, or scroll, you're not just using a tool, you're holding a piece of history in your hand.